everyone. My name is Karin. I also go by Kay. I'm a member of CISV Smoky Mountain. I help them with training. And today I'm going to take some time to give you some information if you are a parent or guardian of a child that's traveling with us in 2026. I am recording this by myself. I'm not talking to anyone specifically right now. So I'm going to try to speak slower than normal because I have a tendency to talk faster if I don't have someone that I'm looking at. So I'm sorry for that in advance. Um, if any questions pop up during this, I know I'm not there in person to answer, but please feel free to contact whoever is assisting you with your program. I'm also leaving my phone number and contact information, email at the end on the final slide. Please feel free to reach out to me if any questions pop up. For our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about why CISV, what makes us different from other international exchange opportunities, the methodology that we use in our educational programs, the different programs that we offer for youth, a little bit more of the camp structure. I know that it can be a little bit hard to kind of picture it when you haven't, if you haven't done a camp as a child or even as a leader or staff as an adult. A little bit of parent and guardian roles and leader roles, and what are the different expectations for you and for the leader who is traveling with your kid. Some preparations that you should expect to happen before the trip, and also what you should expect while your child is participating in a CISV program. So a little bit about CISV. As you can see, there are some numbers here. Yearly, we have about 45,000 participants in all of our programs, including volunteers and people who are actively participating in programs as well. And people who are members of chapters. We have about 4,500 participants a year. This is the data from 2024. We still don't have that for 2025, but it's around on that ballpark. Actually, 2025 is a little bit, compared to like 2022, I think it went down with like 2,000 people. So I think we're still like recovering from COVID. We have 62 member associations, which are the countries. So 62 countries that have CISV in them, and 204 CISV chapters in all of these different countries. So the mission for CISV is to educate and inspire action for a more just and peaceful world. And the way that we want to do that is through peace education for global citizenship. And what does that mean? It means that we want kids to learn about other countries. Yes. We want them to build global friendships, which is our motto. Yes. All of that is part of what we want to do. But while we do that, we want to give them the opportunity to actively work on making the world a better place and making the world more peaceful. So on top of the things that I think are the biggest things that people think about when we talk about CISV, which is the global friendship part, which is super important. Our programs have a very well-researched and well-structured educational purpose and methodology for which we want to give kids and youth the tools that they need so that they can become active global citizens in their community and in the world and wherever they go throughout their lives. So we want youth to grow up with the attitudes, skills, and knowledge that they need to make an impact in society and to better establish those relationships with people from other countries. So yeah, all of that together comprises our methodology, and we do that by utilizing experiential learning, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about here in a bit. And we also have 4 different content focuses in our programs. It doesn't mean that we don't discuss other content, but we try to make sure that every program has a little bit of discussion and activities and educational focus on each of our different programs. It used to be in the past that CISV would focus on one of the four content areas a year, but we changed that recently, which I like personally. So when it comes to the experiential learning cycle, basically, through research, because CSV started as from a child psychologist called Doris Allen. So there was, and there still is, a lot of research that goes hand to hand with our programs to educate us on the best way of giving youth these skills. And we do believe that actively doing something is the best way to learn based on that. So instead of like sitting kids in a classroom setting and just like feeding them information directly, in a camp setting, while they are immersed in this environment where they are interacting and living every day with people from between 6 and 12 different countries, sometimes more, depending on program cancellations and yeah, anyway. So while they're living with people, they are participating in these different activities throughout the day, so that we can think about everything that is happening to us during the program, and at the same time also introducing topics. There's going to be activities that are about things that are happening in different countries. Every single country is going to bring an activity where they're going to discuss a topic, either related to one of the four content areas or related to the theme of the camp, if there is one. And kids are going to be able to learn about the realities of different countries. We do a lot of like nonverbal communication activities, a lot of cultural humility, cultural competency in general, and yeah, different things that would be helpful in an international environment, but also in everyday life as well. So basically, how we do that is in every activity that we plan, and leaders are trained on doing that, and also trained on how to facilitate when kids are planning those activities. We have them do something tangible. So for example, instead of talking about let's say we're discussing sustainability, and I want to do an activity with the kids to introduce this topic. Instead of just telling them, okay, like these are sustainable practices, this is what the process for recycling is like in my country, in the United States. Instead of just telling them about it, I'm going to have a practical activity where they're going to go through the different stages of it. So they might have like a bunch of different materials. We make them go through the separation of the different materials and then utilize those materials to repurpose them into creating different things. If we have, let's say, like a makeshift town and they have to use those materials to build different structures in their town, and then at the end we will present the town to the other groups, etc. Hope that was not convoluted. I'm trying to think of examples. So yeah, so they did all of this. So they had contact with all the different materials. They built it together. They had the chance to like collaborate with the people from their team, make decisions about how they think is the best way of using those materials, thinking about how hard it was, like, was it easy to like repurpose this? Was it easy to clean this if it wasn't clean, etc. At the end of every CISV activity, we go through the reflect, generalize, sometimes not apply stage. So what happens at the end is that we all sit together and we discuss what we did. And when planning activities, whoever is planning it is going to have that in mind and is going to have like questions planned. What is the end goal? Like, what do we want people to learn from that? And we're going to put that into questions that can facilitate that discussion. So we did all of our recycling activity, and then we go and sit together and we reflect. We talk about our experience, what was hard, what was easy. Did we learn anything new? How was it working with people in your team? Was there anything surprising? Was there anything that you would do differently? So we would reflect about that experience that we had at that moment, right? What was it like building that little town with the recycled materials? After that, we want to be able to generalize that to outside of the activity and outside of the camp experience. How does this relate to the reality in your community, in your country, in your city, in this camp? So generalizing this outside of the activity. So people have the opportunity of sharing what their experience has been, how it works in their home. Do they recycle? Do they not recycle? Do they know how recycling happens in their town, in their city, in their country? So sharing and discussing outside. And then hopefully at the end of the activity, they're going to learn new skills, attitudes, and knowledge, which is what we use to measure basically what we want them to learn at the end of each activity. And they might have the chance to apply that new knowledge throughout the camp, or we hope that they will utilize that knowledge outside of the camp later. So yeah, this is the experiential learning cycle. Doing something, reflecting about our experience during the activity, generalizing that outside of the camp and the activity structure, and then applying whatever they learned beyond that activity. So as I mentioned, we do have 4 content areas, which are diversity, human rights, sustainable development, and conflict and resolution. And what this means is that while we discuss different cultural aspects of different countries and participants in the camps, we try to focus on these 4 content areas to kind of guide us through. So each activity that we plan, we try to correlate to one of these or more than one. Like we could discuss, for example, in 2023, we hosted a youth meeting here, and our theme was about the overlap between sustainability and human rights. So we discussed access to water as a human right, and how the current state of the world is moving towards affecting that, or the creation of the use of nuclear energy and how that affects like the pros and cons of that. So different themes can be adjusted together to encompass like a specific topic, but in general we try to focus on one of those per activity. And the staff might choose to like focus on one or more of these themes throughout the program itself. All right, so when it comes to our different programs, we have the Village. The Village is for 11-year-olds. It is 3 to 4 weeks. And it is the first introduction to CISV. The kids do not plan their own activities, and there is a staff group. The staff group, the number of staff will vary, but it's usually between 4 and 6 on every program. And a delegation of 4 travels with an adult leader. We also have 6 JCs, which are junior counselors. They are either 16 or 17 years old, and they are there to kind of act as like a bridge between the kids and the adults, and also as kind of like an opportunity to further develop their leadership skills, so that they can be a leader in the future if they want. They don't have to, but that's always cool. Youth meetings are programs for 12 to 13 year olds. It's between usually 1 to 2 weeks. Um, right now with that program, it's like an introduction to facilitation for the kids. So there's kind of like a mix of the leaders and staff planning activities, but also the kids forming what we call planning groups, where they start planning their own activities as well. The Step Up program is 14 or 15-year olds. It's usually 3 weeks, and the goal of the program is to give the kids more responsibility. Um, they will plan all the activities in planning groups with leaders, and they also have what we call camp meetings where they will discuss issues that are arising in the camp, or things they want to change, what is working, what is not working. They create the schedule. So basically everything is in their hands, but with a lot more adult oversight. And then we have the seminar camp, which is for 18. Don't quote me on that one. I forgot. I think it's 18 and 19 years old. No, sorry. It's 16 and 17. I apologize. Seminar camps for 16 and 17-year-olds. It used to be 17, 18, but they changed it. 16 and 17-year-olds in the seminar camp, there are no leaders. So the participants travel as an individual. And when they arrive at the camp, they have a staff group of adults that oversee like the risk management part of it. And, interact and make sure everything is running okay and the logistics of the camp. But otherwise, the kids or the participants will do everything. They will make the schedule. They cook. They plan all the activities, evaluate the activities, evaluate how the program is going. They do everything basically. Different countries have different national programs. In our case, in the US, we have Fortnite, which is for 16 and 17-year-olds. And it's only for US participants. Other countries have different programs, so it's hard to say. But yeah, it's a great way of like having a CISV experience without the language barrier and also at a cheaper cost as well. And then we have the Mosaic program, which is it's a little bit hard to explain because the Mosaic program is like a local program with CISV that achieves some kind of goal. It may or may not be in collaboration with like another organization. But it basically it's like a locally organized program that has an educational component to it. So it's like a way of bringing CISV outside of the camp format and into the community in a very summarized way. Speaking a little bit about the camp structure, I have here just an example of a schedule for a camp. The schedule is usually decided either by the staff and leaders group, but that's also something that can be changed throughout oh, that was an accident. That's also something that can be changed throughout the camp. So if we decide that like, oh, activity 3 is not long enough, we need more time, we can change the structure of the schedule to complement that. Usually what happens, not every time, there's a little bit differences, is that everyone wakes up at the same time. We have what we call a delegation of the day. So every day, one delegation is responsible for waking people up, and they will have that day, like, basically the day will be themed for that delegation, for that country. We have flag time, both when we wake up and before we go to bed, and that is kind of a reminder of why we're there. So we usually sing the CISV song together, which talks about what happens in a camp. We say good morning and good night in every language, so that's a little opportunity there to learn a little bit about other languages, and then that's the way that we start and finish our day. Everyone has all their meals together. Usually the delegation of the day will have some kind of like game or different way of like picking who is gonna have what tables are gonna go get their meal first. Sometimes they do trivia, sometimes they do some kind of like competition to decide the order. And usually in camp as well, I say usually for a lot of things, it's because there are differences and it will all depend on those small details will depend on the group that is at the camp. But usually everyone has a placemat with their name on it. And that helps in the beginning for people to learn each other's names, but also we like shuffle them together so that people can eat every meal with different people. So we don't want people to like just sit with the same people every day. We want to give them an opportunity to meet new folks, especially in the beginning. So we shuffle those together, and then the delegation of the day will go around and like place people on these different tables for meals. Then as you can see here, we have activity one, activity two, activity three. I would say the standard is probably 3 activities a day. Sometimes 2 is pretty rare. I've seen 4 as well, but I would say 3 to 4 is probably the the average that I've seen. Um, and during these activities, it's like the stuff that we plan with like specific educational goals in mind. Depending on the camp, either the leaders group are going to plan that, or the kids are going to be planning those. Um, we have siesta, uh, which is after lunch every day. Does not mean that people have to go to sleep during siesta. It's just like a time that we have for like some calm time. So usually like bedrooms are quiet, and if kids want to go take a nap after lunch, they can. If they want to like read, they can. If they want to like make bracelets in the activity room, they can. If they want to just hang out and like chat quietly, they can. But it's basically a time where it's like free time, but we with chill time. Oh, I did skip free time. We also have that usually once or twice a day where they can just do whatever they want in areas that are supervised by adults. Um, we also have snack time. A lot of the time we have what is called a JC shop. That's specifically for village, but we also call it JC shop in other camps sometimes too, which is just like the staff will like sell snacks. So that's something to keep in mind. We have shower time. Does not mean that the kids have to have a shower at shower time, depending, like they can have a shower at free time. It depends on like the configuration of the camp. Usually during shower time, which is monitored, like there's already always adults in not in the bathrooms, but in the area of the bathroom, so the kids are never like left alone. But that's the time where leaders and staff have their leaders meeting every day, so they discuss a little bit of what's going on. We have delegation time, which is a time for the delegation to hang out with their leaders, speak in their own language, talk about how the camp is going with them. Dinner, activity 3. You can see there's another free time here. Get ready for bed, flag time again. Lullabies, which is a time where we sing songs. And then we have bedtime and lights out. Lights out, so we have like a separate here because usually we'll all go to bed and then we have to wait for the kids to like settle down, and then after we turn the lights out, the adults will like stay in the vicinity to kind of make sure everyone goes to sleep. They get very excited and want to talk all night, which unfortunately we can't let them do that. And then usually after that, there's still another leaders meeting where the leaders and staff and JCs, depending if we have them, are going to keep talking about what's going on at the camp. Sorry, that was really long. If you are watching this at home, you can like, if you want, you can make me go faster on your video if that helps. Anyways, other activities that happen or may not happen are open day, which is a day where everyone, it is open for people in the chapter. So usually the different delegations will bring little snacks, pamphlets from their country, and just make like a little table, little souvenirs if you want. They set up a table, and then people from the chapter come around and like talk to them, taste whatever snacks they have, talk to them about their country, ask questions. Um, and that usually happens at every program. We also have the cultural activities, which is something that is supposed to be planned before camp with the delegation. So the delegates and the leader will plan an activity that incorporates the theme of the camp with the reality of their country. So they're going to bring that, have discussions about that, and then plan this activity before the camp and bring it to the camp. We understand that sometimes there are circumstances that do not allow that to happen, but we it's better for everyone if that is completed before, or else they have to spend time in delegation time during camp to finalize that, which is never fun because yeah, we want to spend that time with our delegation doing fun stuff and talking about camp. Most CISV programs have excursions in them. The amount of excursions will depend on a lot of different factors. Sometimes different camps have like one excursion day and then a separate like shopping day. Sometimes we have a local impact day, which is like a collaboration. Either the kids will go like volunteer somewhere or go to another organization, learn about the work they're doing, stuff like that. Or someone will come to the camp to talk to them about that. In terms of homestay, during the village program, there is always a homestay in the middle of the program, and there is most of the time a homestay in the beginning of the program. So basically, what happens in most programs, um, while Village is the only one that has that middle homestay in most programs, the delegation will arrive and then the kids are going to go into homestay for a day or two and the leaders go into the camp first so that they can prepare with the staff and also get extra training from the staff, which is super, super important. So unless there's some extenuating circumstance, that's the plan most of the time. And then at the end of the camp, there is usually the possibility of homestay if a delegation is traveling a day after the camp ends, for example. Homestay is usually families that are from the local chapter. So they do receive training and they do have to go through background checks to receive folks in their homes. Another thing that happens a lot at camp is trading. One thing that I like to tell people that I think is important is don't send your kid to camp with anything of like value, sentimental, like if you can help it. Um, like if you bought your kid a pair of pants that was super expensive, don't send it to camp. Like first of all, they might get dirty, but you would be surprised with things that people trade at camp. Like they will literally trade their clothing, even though it's not CISV branded. In general, things that are popular for trading are CISV merch, any type of CISV merch. So I definitely recommend getting some for your kid to trade at camp. If you were a participant and you have any CISV merch that you don't use anymore, those are like big hitters for trading at camp, like vintage stuff. Awesome. Souvenirs from your country as well. But yeah, just like the kids will end up like trading anything. So yeah, keep that in mind. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the leader role. Basically, a leader is an adult that is 21 and up for international programs, and they are volunteers. They might get paid a stipend depending on the chapter. That is a little bit more popular here in the US than in other countries. I think because the US has more of like a camp counselor culture than other countries. So it's kind of a way of us being able to quote unquote compete with other summer programs that they could be doing. But yeah, so leaders are volunteers. They are trained facilitators. So every leader that comes out of CSV USA will go through local leadership training, which I think now is being done usually like virtually. And then they also have mandatory in-person, we call it national leadership training or NLT, where leaders from like the same region will all come together, and then a trainer is sent from CSV USA that will provide training in person. And that is mandatory for staff members, seminar participants, leaders, and JCs. They are also educators. They receive a lot of training on our methodology, how to plan activities, how to facilitate activities, how to facilitate the facilitation of activities by the youth. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into becoming a leader, a lot of time, a lot of commitment. Very grateful for them. They are responsible for the kids throughout the program. Of course, if there are most of the time, there are no emergencies that arise, but if there are any decisions that have to be made and a parent or guardian cannot be contacted, the leaders are going to be responsible for it. Um, they are responsible for caring for your child throughout the experience. So if a child is sick, they're the ones that are going to be caring for them. They're going to be making sure that they're having conversations with them to check if they're having a good experience, to talk with the staff to make accommodations if needed. So yeah, the leaders are also the bridge between communication, between you and your kid that's in camp. We usually do not, unless there's a various extenuating circumstance, the kids will not like communicate directly with parents. And that is so that we can ensure their integration and like immersion into the program. The communication amount between you and the leader will is something that has to be talked about. So usually during training, the leaders will be told like, make sure that you talk to the parents and um, set the expectation of communication. But I think it's important that y'all also know that. And if that conversation doesn't happen from them, that you initiate it, because that can create a lot of frustration if you think that the leader is going to text you every day and send pictures, and then that doesn't end up happening. And I can tell you from someone who has been doing this, I've done that a lot. I've been in 12 programs, I think, as a staff and leader. We're so busy. It's like wild how little time that we have to even send like take 5 minutes and like send a message, because everything that we told y'all about like the schedule, the leaders are participating in all of that. And then on top of that, at night, and while the kids are doing shower time, they are also having meetings to like discuss what's going on and to continue planning and to problem solve. So there's not a lot of time to communicate. So there is no like rule of like the leader has to send you information every day, every 2 days, every 3 days. So that's something to be discussed. Yeah. And I would say try to have some patience with them, because they're doing a lot. It's a very intense and tiring experience, even though it's very, very rewarding. As I mentioned, they do receive training, and they have to balance of like being a legal guardian and then also being friends and also having the kids feel comfortable talking to them about their problems. So, as many as possible, as much as possible, I would say, help facilitate opportunities for the leader to meet with the delegation before the camp. That's really important. And to meet you so that you can also develop that trust in them as well. Um, so for staff, The leader is the one that travels with the delegation, and then the staff is a group of adults who are in the not necessarily, usually from the chapter that is hosting the program, but it is very common within CISV to borrow staff. It's very common to have international staff, but most of the time I would say most of the staff is from the local chapter, and then we like complete the team by recruiting from other chapters in other countries. The staff is responsible for communicating with the local chapter, so getting support from them and coordinating with them. They also train the leaders upon arrival. While CISV has basic expectations and guidelines on training that the leader should receive before the arrival. We do this so that we can like level the playing field, make sure everyone has all the basic information that they need, and also give an opportunity for the adult group to kind of get to know each other a little bit and start working together before the kids arrive. The staff is also responsible for all risk management throughout the program. There will always be a car at programs, and then they will drive people around if needed. If we need to go like buy something, if we need to take someone to a doctor, something like that. They are also the ones organizing excursions. They will check all of the forms whenever the leaders arrive to the camp. The leaders will like give the forms to the staff to be checked. And so super important that the forms are in order. They also assist the leaders with anything they need help with. They're there to support the leaders and the kids throughout the camp. They, however, you probably are not going to be really talking to the staff unless anything specific happens, but you as a parent, most of the time, the communication that will happen with them is from the pre-camps, which I'm going to discuss a little bit more, which are basically packets of information that the staff will send to everyone that's coming before the camp. But yeah, staff are responsible for all infrastructure of the camp. They talk to like the campsite staff, kitchen and cooking staff in general as well. The staff also make sure that the educational content is going in the right direction. So they help coordinate like evaluations throughout the program to see if anything needs to be changed, if we're achieving our educational goals. And then they also evaluate the program at the end. All right, and now your role as the parent or guardian of a child who is going on a CISV program, make sure that you attend all meetings, take some time to get to know the leader. Please give the leader information about your child. Again, that's also something that we try to train leaders on, but that might fall through the cracks. Everyone is like, juggling a lot of information, a lot of tasks. So, make sure that you talk to your leader about what your child is like. How do they act when they're frustrated? What can they do to like help support them? Do they have any special needs? Do they usually get homesick if they're away from you? What are things that the leader can do to help mitigate that? Are they more of like an extrovert or an introvert? What type of like, how do they make friendships? All of that information is super important. And then I cannot stress enough this part. Please make a list of any over-the-counter medication that you are sending with your child and what it's used for, like in what situation the leader is allowed to give that child that medication and what is the dosage. And I say that because if you just like send your kid with Tylenol, the leader and the staff are not allowed to just like give your kid Tylenol. Like they can't just decide that unless you gave specific instructions for it. Or else they have to like contact the doctor, like the camp doctor, which we don't want to be doing for like every time someone needs like headache medication or anything like that. So on top of because I know on the health form you have to list any like recurring medications. So if it's in there, that's awesome. But yeah, I also recommend making that list of over-the-counter medication, what it's for, dosage, if you're sending it with them, etc. It's your role as well to support in the preparation tasks. So, as I mentioned, there's like a cultural activity. They might need support in like buying stuff for that or preparing anything. Might need support deciding on what to buy for. Usually we buy like staff gifts as a delegation, maybe homestay gifts. Yeah, stuff for open day. Please have patience and understanding, as I mentioned, with all this information that y'all are receiving. Like the staff and the leaders are receiving that times 100. So yeah. Stay involved after travel if you can. The more people that we have participating in our local chapter means the more kids can have these opportunities to have this like a CISV experience. So we really need you to be active. Ask any questions that come up. That's super important. Understand your financial responsibility. Update my CISV information. You're going to be the one that's going to be inputting all that information into the platform and also complete any other necessary documentation. In terms of individually, like for your kids specifically, make sure that you meet with the leader. Um, Make sure that you read all the pre-camps with your kid as well and prepare accordingly. Buy plane tickets and sending information to staff. Sometimes this is the leader that's going to do. I should change this, but usually the leader is going to be the one that's sending that information. Um, Make sure your kid has items to trade if they want to do that. Make sure their passport and visa are up to date, and then make sure that you are reading the code of conduct and the program rules with your kid before the program. And I'm going to put links to those here in a bit. Um, in terms of stuff the delegation has to prepare, make sure you're meeting regularly and getting to know each other, as I mentioned. Prepare the cultural activity for the camp. If you're doing a village, you have to make booklets, which are basically like little informational things where the kids will like write about themselves and share some information about their countries, and make sure that you're preparing for the events that are happening as a delegation, like open day. All right. My CISV is a platform. It's basically how almost everything program related is registered. So you're going to upload your forms, your legal forms, your health forms, your travel information forms, your delegation information forms. There's a lot of forms. All of that is in my CISV. And basically, you need to make sure that you're registered. If if your child is under the age of 16, you have to make an account and then you're going to register it for them. But however, you do not make an account in their name. This is really important. So you register as yourself. So if your name is Mary Smith, you're going to make an account under Mary Smith. And then if your son's name is Jack Smith, you're going to add your son as a dependent inside of your account. And then when they become 16 and older, they can have their own account. This is also where the staff is going to upload pre-camps. But yeah, this is the link to my CISV. I'm going to be sending this PowerPoint presentation to people. I've talked about pre-camps a couple of times. Basically, pre-camps are packets of information that the staff puts together that is super important for you and for the leaders to have access to. So, there is always going to be at least 2 pre-camps before a program, and then pre-camp 3 is may or may not happen. So basically, pre-camp 1 usually has basic information like the dates, what time that you have to arrive by, what time you have to leave by, what airport you're going to, the countries that are participating in the program. So that's basically just like a form that the staff will fill in. It's not like cute or intricate. And then pre-camp 2 is usually like a PDF document that the staff will like spend more time on. Um, Usually like is heftier in size, so they will have information on what to bring, what kind of stuff that you have to prepare. So if they have open day, it's going to be there. If they have any other special activity, it's going to be there. There's going to be information about the staff, about the country. So, for example, if you're going to Brazil, for a village and you're going to the São Paulo chapter, like example in the pre-camp, they might send you information about the weather in São Paulo in July. It's actually winter in Brazil, so it's colder than you would expect compared to it being summer in other countries. So yeah, any details about arrival and departure, like sometimes the kids are going to be picked up at the airport directly by the homestay, depending on the place, like the chapter situation. For example, I staffed a camp in Oslo in Norway, and like we would give instructions for the delegations when they arrived. The airport's like really far, so they would take a train, and then the homestays will pick them up from the like train station in Oslo because the airport was like in another city. So any information like that will be on the pre-camp too. There's usually like a packing list. Information about the theme of the camp as well. But yeah. And then pre-camp 3 is not mandatory, but if there's any information that they received, that's important for you to know after it comes there. Oh, other important things that they might discuss in the pre-camp is like, is there going to be internet access at the camp? Like, are the leaders going to have access to the internet sometimes or all the time? That's also a important question that I would ask because if they won't, you can decide if you want to just deal with that or if you want to buy the leader like an eSIM with data and put it on their phone, stuff like that. In terms of passport and visa, make sure, of course, that your kid has their passport and that it does not expire at least 6 months after their return date because sometimes they can be denied boarding if their passport is going to expire in the next 6 months, which we want to not refuse, we want to avoid. We also make sure the staff might give you some visa requirements and information, but it's your responsibility in collaboration with the chapter to research about that, make sure that your kid has all the necessary visas, and also make sure that you have a passport. And while it's very rare that a parent will have to come pick up a kid in another country. It has happened. So we want to make sure that that is taken care of. Or if you don't have a passport, that someone in your, like a trusted adult in your family, hopefully a legal guardian has a passport that can come pick up the child if anything happens, but it is definitely very rare. In terms of anticipated expenses, prepare to pay for the airfare for your child, and then also part of the leader's airfare. It's usually shared per delegate. So if the delegation has 6 kids, the airfare will be split in six parts. If it's four, it's going to be split in four. Any visa and passport fees as well. Usually the staff in the pre-camp would also tell you how much spending money to bring. We also call it pocket money. Basically the spending money, the staff will tell you how much because we want to be mindful that like different countries have different, like their money is worth different things. People come from like a variety of different economical backgrounds in CISV. So we want to make sure to have a baseline so that we don't have like one kid bringing $300 and another kid bringing $2,000 to buy like snacks at the camp. We try to keep it mostly even. Um, there's also going to be an amount for emergencies. Nowadays, it used to be that it was always in cash. Nowadays, a lot of people also do a card, like making sure that the leader has access to like a debit card or a credit card or something where they have money in case there's an emergency. We do have insurance with CISV, so if there is a situation where a kid has to go to the hospital, for example, the insurance will cover that. However, it will depend on the hospital and the country and the situation, where sometimes the insurance, if it's like a lot of money, the insurance will usually like, we will put them in contact with the hospital and they pay directly. But depending if it's not that much, usually we will pay, like the leader will pay and then put in a request to have that reimbursed. So it's good to be prepared for that. Oh, any preparations, things to bring for trading. There usually is a camp shirt, so the staff will let you know how much it is. So you have to bring money for that. Um, as I mentioned, there's the international phone plan that you may or may not want to. You can discuss that with the leader and with the other parents if y'all want to do that. Will depend on like the Wi-Fi access at the campsite. Nowadays, it's gotten a lot better, but it used to be that like a lot of the campsites didn't have any internet access at all. So the staff would have to like coordinate and like have access every once in a while so that the leaders could like email people or email the guardians. And then, yeah, we have the program fees and the membership fees that you are familiar with. I'm not going to read this whole document, but we do have a code of conduct at CISV. I definitely recommend that you read that and read it with your kids. A couple of important documents are the R7, which is our positive behavior policy. It's a little bit longer, so it has more of like specific behavior, like this behavior is forbidden. If this behavior happens, this is the kind of consequence that happens with it. And then we also have the adult code of conduct and the child code of conduct, which is the one that I recommend that is reviewed with the participants, the child code of conducts. It makes it a little bit easier to understand for kids and easier to discuss with them. All of the documents are located on CISV Central and then also the CISV resources page on the website. However, that is about to change. It's about to go away, the resources website. And I don't love this, but every document, like you have to log in to have access to all these documents. So that's why I'm not linking them directly, because I can, but it's going to ask you to log in. Couple of things you should expect during the program, as I mentioned about the communication with the leader. Make sure that that is taken into consideration, that is communicated beforehand, set the expectations. Please do not expect the leader to text you every day. They may be able to, but it's really rare, I would say. There is an opportunity to send nowadays emails. Sometimes letters, but sending an email is probably a better idea than sending a letter, because sometimes it gets lost. Like the different postage systems in different countries are different. Definitely don't recommend sending emails to your child all the time. Usually how it happens is like the parent will send an email and then the staff will like print it out and have the leader hand it out to the youth. The staff will look at it though, and the leader, before giving it out, because there are some information that we don't want to be given. For example, I literally as a staff have like read letters from parents saying that the dog died. Like we don't want to give that information to the kid throughout the camp because we're not prepared to deal with those emotions at that moment. So yeah. Food at camp can be a challenge sometimes. I think it's important to have a conversation with your kid about openness to like eating different foods. I know I use Brazil a lot as an example, but it's because I am from Brazil. For example, in Brazil, we eat rice and beans every lunch and every dinner. And then we also eat like another carb and then a protein and like a salad with it. But that's usually like a shock to people. It's like, why are we eating rice and beans every meal? Like, you don't have to eat the rice and beans every meal, but they are going to be there because that's how Brazilians eat. So, making sure that your kid is like open-minded to that. That does not mean that they have to be willing to do whatever. Like, there are standards that we expect from camp, in terms of the food that's being served. So it does have to be like nutritious, and there has to be a variety as well. They can't be eating the same thing every day. So yeah, talk to your kid about that, about being open to the difference in food that's being served. And making lots of friends and having a lot of fun should also be expected. Oh, sorry, and the homestays, which I did explain a little bit before. So prepare them for that too. That's a good conversation to have. Like, you're going to stay in someone's house, and how should you behave? What should you be open to? Like, take this as an opportunity to learn a little bit about how this family lives and how it's different from how we live, stuff like that. After a CSV program, it is very common for participants to experience what we call camp sickness. It is a camp is a very intense experience because you're literally being thrown in like this environment where you're like living with people, like you're waking up with them, you're having all your meals with them, and you're going to bed at the same time in them and at the same room as some of them, and it's a very like intense way of forming friendships, and it's very beautiful, but it also means that when you come back home, it can be hard to adapt. So prepare to like comfort your child during that. Encourage their communication with other participants. Usually, like, there will be groups either on WhatsApp or used to be Facebook. I don't know anymore what the kids are doing nowadays. Probably like Instagram. I think probably Instagram and WhatsApp are the most popular. But making groups so they can talk to each other. Encourage your kid to be involved with the junior branch of your chapter. And I encourage you to stay involved as a family so that you can keep building that CISV spirit throughout the year, not only during camp time. If you can, please volunteer for hosting. So whenever we are hosting a program, usually here it's like every 2 years, I would say. It's not mandatory. I think the next program that we are hosting is a step up. Next year, I think. Yeah, I think it's next year. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Um, but we're gonna have homestay opportunities. We have opportunities to drive people from the airport to the camp and other places. We have opportunities for camp setup and also to take down the camp. Really, really ask you for help with, especially taking down the camp, because usually the staff are like completely exhausted at the end, and it's very hard for them to contribute to that. If you are a physician or if you're a mental health professional, it's always great to volunteer to be a consult. Consult, which basically means, it doesn't mean that you're on call, as in like we're gonna be like calling and texting you in the middle of the night. But it's very great for like the staff to have a person that they can be like, hey, so this kid has these symptoms. Should we take them to the hospital? Or small things like that. Of course, if there's an emergency, they're going to be taken to the hospital anyway. It's more about like advice than actual like provision of services, if that makes sense. It is required to have a background check in up to date and a driver's check if you are going to be having kids in your house or driving kids around. We also have open day, so if you are around, we would love to have you visit the camp, and you can get a little bit of a glimpse of camp life when you do that. This is just like a list of a couple of documents. As I mentioned, now I try to click on all these links today, and they all make you log in to see them. So in general, I would say go here to CSV Central, and then you can find all these different documents in there. There is still information on each different program on the website, though. There's also each program has a manual for that program, it's a little bit longer, but I recommend you take a look at it so you can learn a little bit more about the intricacies of each specific program and make sure that your child is goes through the child code of behavior. Oh, I hope this wasn't too long. I apologize if it was. Here's my contact information. Feel free to text me. That's probably better than emailing. I'll reply easier, but I also encourage you to reach out to whoever is assisting you with your program, um, the program coordinator. But yeah, I hope your kids have a great experience during camp. If any questions come up, please feel free to reach out, and I'll see you later.